You know they do mortgages too? Whether you need a first or second mortgage, a home equity line of credit, or a loan for construction, renovation, a lot, or a manufactured home, Palmetto Citizens has you covered. They're a community financial institution based solely here in the Midlands, so they offer a refreshingly simple mortgage process you won't get from the big banks or online lenders. Along with a great rate, the Palmetto Citizens mortgage team will work with you to tailor the loan to best fit your needs and budget. Apply for your mortgage today by visiting palmettocitizens.org or stopping by any of their 14 branches across the Midlands. Palmetto Citizens, proudly serving this community since 1936. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID number 449962. Approval based on credit worthiness. Certain restrictions may apply.
Just how does a car repair shop last in business for over 50 years like Suddeth Automotive? By providing affordable, reliable, and honest auto repair. But if you ask them, they'll tell you it's their loyal customers who come back time and time again to entrust them with their car repairs. Well-trained technicians, service packages, and monthly specials. Isn't it time you became a customer? Give them a call or come by at 1410 North Millwood Avenue or make an appointment at SuddethAuto.com.
We are so excited. Sound and Images has upgraded to a phenomenal facility at 807 Bluff Road, right there across the street from our friends at the State Fair. We have new upgraded facilities, video conferencing room experience that will seat up to 35 people depending on configuration. We also have meeting space and venue space on property to offer our partners at Sound and Images. Please contact Sound and Images at soundandimages.net, your commercial AV installation and live event production specialists.
WNKT-FM Eastover, Columbia. The home of the national champion Gamecocks women's basketball team. Congrats, y'all. A Cumulus media station. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia. 107.5 The Game on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
11 o'clock, welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you on this Tuesday, day 2 of SEC Media Days, off and rolling in Dallas. We'll check in with Jay Phillips again coming up at 11:30, see if they've gotten in any trouble after, 2 nights now in Dallas so far. And yesterday, of course, was day 1, and we heard from Coach Beamer, heard from Boogie, heard from Debo, heard from Luke Doty. And we'll get to some of these cuts as the hour goes along. But now that we bring in Wes here, anything in particular that stood out to you from what you heard yesterday, what you saw?
Well, first of all, what I'm hearing today, Jay again, is Elijah working, or we're just on the Jay schedule?
Bill and Preston get Elijah in the morning. I get Terry in the 9 o'clock. We're stuck with Jay at 11:30. That's it. We got to deal with that for the next couple days. I'm sorry in advance.
It's okay. I won't be here tomorrow, so that's on y'all.
Which, by the way, how convenient is it that Wes took his week off the same week that College Football 25 drops? Interesting, right?
I mean, I'm not saying, but
did your system come? Tyler, we were on the podcast yesterday.
Yes.
Wes is like, if I disappear.
Live podcast.
And said this on the
ring
podcast.
At the door.
Yes.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
No, literally.
Yeah, literally. Did it come, though?
It didn't.
What?
Yeah.
They missed the window?
No, I missed the window.
Uh-oh.
Not because of the show, right?
No, not because, I would have been.
Sorry, Chris, you're on your own.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You just but you have to sign.
Yes, you do, especially for something like that.
Yeah.
You don't want that left on your doorstep.
You know what I think happened is wifey sabotaged it because she's like, I think Wes might bring this thing to the beach or wherever y'all are going.
And I'm thinking about that.
She's like, you can wait a couple days.
You can play that thing on an iPad now, though, from what I understand. There's
yeah,
like an app.
You can take it with you.
Please let me know if you decide to take it.
You can hook it up. No, you can hook it up at your house, have it hooked up to the internet, and I think if you take a controller, you can play it remotely on your iPad.
You might be walking back from the beach if you do that, Wes.
Hey, that's fine. That's cool. But no, I don't have it yet. I can't report back. I should have just went to Target and bought the thing, but I had a voucher if I bought it online for $50 off.
So I went to Best Buy because I thought I could find one that was like, open box. Maybe they knock $100 off of it. I was not successful.
Yeah,
had to pay full price.
So you got it.
I got the system. Yeah.
You didn't do
the game.
Well, the game, it's $100 to pre-order it. I'm just gonna wait until Friday.
It's $70 on Friday, so you can pay $10 a day.
Do you see that cut sheet in front of you? Do you see how busy I am this week? I'm not going to get to touch that 5 until the end of the week anyway. So it's not worth
all these.
It's not worth my $30.
We're not using all these.
Well, he's giving us a library.
No, we are going to spend the entire show using every single one of these.
No,
so my time was worth it.
No, we are not. There's not enough time in the
60
world.
60 of them.
So here's my question for SEC Media Days, and I want people to weigh in on the Firehouse Subs text line 404-6100. Do you care now that South Carolina is done? Like I know we're gonna. I'm sure y'all are gonna cover it because it's the middle of July, so it's like what's going on. But like how many people listen to the South Carolina part and they're like, all right, I'm good. I got my feel. How many people go as far as like sitting there watching it on SEC Network for 4 days? You know, like how many people? Like I'm curious about what the care factor is for the rest of it.
I would imagine most people, you keenly pay attention to what your head coach says, like Beamer yesterday, listen to his presser, see all the videos of what Debo and all those guys said yesterday. And I think the rest of the week's probably background noise to you, right? Like you're paying attention, and hey, if Kirby or Sarkisian said something interesting, hey, that's something of note. But I don't know how many people lock in, because SEC does it's from 10 until 4 every single day, 6 hours a day. I don't know how many people are locking in watching that on TV.
Well, and to your point, if somebody says something like off the rails or even just interesting, it's going to basically pop up on social as a headline, as a tweet, as a video, something where you're like, oh, because people are going to be talking about it. So it allows you not to pay attention to everything and still get some of what's going on. It would be depending on your job. If you have kind of a laid-back job, or if you're the boss, if you work from home, I feel like it's good background noise. Like it's good to maybe have on in the background while you're doing other things. But yeah, as far as South Carolina, in general, we talked about some of the things yesterday already.
Sure.
I still, and go check out Gamecock Central. Chris did the article version of what I'm about to say. I still go back to the Rocket Sanders talk and how, because of his setbacks last year, much of which I would say was injury related, some of it was just, frankly, poor team, right? He's not near as hyped as he would be. Like if he had transferred coming off of that year before, I mean, I know running backs are undervalued these days, but he'd be...
That would have been like
he'd be a top 15...
Huge event. Yeah.
Top 15 overall transfer.
Yeah.
And Beamer spoke about Rocket not only in the ballroom, but also with local media yesterday. Let's hit what he did have to say with local media in response to Rocket and his rehabilitation this offseason.
Yeah, rocket science is kind of what we've labeled that. I wish I could take credit for that. That was Chip Morton, our associate strength coach, but he is. He's done an amazing job. Credit Rocket, credit our training staff, our strength and conditioning staff, nutrition. Appreciate the administration giving us the resources to have, cutting edge recovery, tactics in place, whatever you want to call it, strength and conditioning, training room, nutrition. But he's done a great job. Was modified early on when he got here, Jordan, and then we've just slowly built that up. He stayed in Columbia. the entire month of May. He didn't go anywhere, so I was, I go in the facility early each morning, and I'm usually in the weight room at 6 a.m., and he was in there every day when I was in there, and doing recovery and using the month of May to really get ahead. So when the whole team came back and started workouts in June, he would not be lagging behind, and he's hit the ground running. He's lost a considerable amount of weight and body fat since he got here, so when we talk about hunger on the football team, he's a guy that's very hungry. I mean, I think people forget how freaking good that guy was in 2022. I'm glad people have, but he's really good and when healthy. And I'm optimistic that we're going to see the best version of Rocket Sanders this upcoming season that the SEC ever has.
And again, that's everything that you want to hear in terms of a guy that has dealt with the injuries that he has up to this point. And as Beamer mentioned there, as you guys just mentioned, when he was at full strength, legitimately probably one of the, if not the best backs in the SEC. And we certainly have a lot of optimism. He'll be back to that, true form when the season rolls around here in a couple of weeks.
Well, I think you're hearing the right things right now in terms of, I think we wondered, would this be one of those things? And still to be determined, let's be fair. But was this going to be one of those things where we're sitting there going, all right, it's going to take a month into the season for Rocket to start to look like the guy that we saw a couple of seasons ago? And, again, to be determined. But the early signs are that he is far enough on the process of his rehab that maybe that's not the case. Maybe he does sort of hit the ground running this year. And I think being able to go through summer workouts is one of those things where if you had to hold him back in summer workouts, does that still beat the alternative of rushing him back and possibly, going too quick with the rehab?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. But, and that would be one of those things where the coaches, I feel like, would kind of explain it away. Like, look, we still have time. It's not the season yet, blah, 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 if you want to put the positive vibe on it. But, I mean, that's a physically demanding position. And you're a guy, Rocket is fast, but you're going to run. You're a big dude. You're going to run with physicality. And so, and let's be honest, Columbia, game 1, week 1, it's going to be hot. So I think for Rocket and for South Carolina fans to see the guy that they want to see, he needed this summer to really go great, honestly. And at least the reports we're getting so far is that he is 100% on track for that. He's been full go. They were obviously careful with him in the spring, but I think getting him back in a situation where he could go through fall camp, and now you don't want to get him hit too much in fall camp, I don't think. You're going to have to walk that line, I feel like, of making sure he's ready to go. But you also don't want him to be hit for the first time in months in game 1, I don't think either. So I'll be curious to see how they manage that. As another takeaway that is directly related to this very conversation, Chris, is, Beamer, we've talked about it all offseason, the sort of in-depth look at every aspect of the program, and including himself and how he does things. How about that mention of not necessarily starting faster as a team in terms of wins and losses, but being in a better position to try and, I don't know how you do it, but try and avoid some of those big early season injuries.
Yep.
Like Beamer mentioned it sort of, hey, this is a trend at this point, that they have lost guys early in the year. And I thought that was interesting that he mentioned it as a trend as opposed to just being like, yeah, we've had bad luck at the beginning of the season. But he rattled off all the guys the last few years that have had either season-ending or kind of season-altering injuries at the very beginning of a season.
Yeah, and by trend, I wonder if it's, is it just statistically a trend, or by that did he mean it's statistically a trend and we have tied it back to maybe something we were doing? I don't know the answer to that. When we sat down with Beamer in February, Wes, and talked to him about the run of O-line injuries last year, he at that time, and they had looked at it, chalked it up a little bit more to it happened to hit that position. Sometimes that happens, and we kind of looked at each of them and why they all happened, and it kind of seemed like they didn't really have an answer. Oh, we did these one or two particular things that we're doing, in our program, how we practice, how we run strength and conditioning. It didn't seem like he had tied it to that. So I wonder if maybe did they dive deeper and find something else? Statistically, certainly it is a trend that they have to reverse.
Yeah, and I don't think, Chris, that this tells us exactly what that answer may be, but I do think the way he answered it yesterday leads me to believe they do think there's something there because, he has, when he's talked about injuries in general, like you're talking about, he really hasn't taken a specific approach to, hey, this is what we're going to do differently. But right after talking about, to the local media, talking about the guys they've lost early in the season, he says, quote, so that's my standpoint, things that I'm going to do a little bit differently just from August preseason practice, kind of how we do things, the structure, not anything radical, but we got to get off to a better start this year and stay healthy better early in the season than what we've done. So if he's saying we're going to change something structurally with how they practice in August, clearly we don't know exactly what he's talking about. But, is that load management? Is that, I don't know. Obviously, every coach in the country is trying to find that balance on how hard to push the guys and how to keep them healthy.
Plenty more to unpack from what Beamer and company said at Media Days yesterday. We'll continue to dive into that as the hour goes along. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday here on The Game.
The Game Network in Columbia. 107.5 The Game. In Florence. 100.5 The Game. In Myrtle Beach. 100.3 The Game. Ever been on this date?
You're a good-looking man.
Thank you.
Very pretty. Real soft, delicate features. They're real feminine.
And thought, man, I'd rather be listening to The Game right now.
Welcome in to the afternoon show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips.
Well, just go to iTunes or Google Play and download the Game app. Sure, you may no longer be with that person anymore, but you'll never be without the game again. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
If you need any audio visual services at your home or business, remember to call our friends over at Integrated Media or visit their website, integratedmediainc.com, or 803-948-8327. Everything from security and cameras, TV installations, a new home theater system, man cave, or a complete smart home system, they can do it for you. Integrated Media, they've been out to my home, they've been out to Wes's home, taking care of several different projects for us, whether it's making sure that our internet signals are as strong as possible for streaming our live show, streaming sports across multiple devices, making sure our video game systems are all situated, or just mounting televisions. They've done all of that for us. They can do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com. Follow them on Facebook or Instagram for some examples of past work and inspiration at Integrated Media Columbia, or 803-948-8327.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet. Incredible summer savings all summer long on the entire lineup of award-winning Chevys. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive. Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass.
July 19th and 20th, come to the barbecue at the farm at Ridgeway and an evening with Larry, Steve, and Rudy, the Gatlin brothers. Barbecue competition, live music, food trucks, drinks, and of course, barbecue. Visit PWEEEENT.com to purchase tickets to sample all the barbecue or tickets to the Gatlin brothers, 7 p.m. Saturday. Net proceeds go to the new Charter High School for Trade Skills. Friday, 5 to 9 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 IPO. Presented by Owens Corning, The Farm at Ridgeway, and PD Enterprises.
Nothing slows down a job like not having the right equipment. Maybe your favorite zero-turn or push mower is getting repaired right now. Or maybe you want to take advantage of some dry weather to finally aerate or dethatch your lawn. Or maybe you just want a great excuse to mow with our super cool Gravely EV. Either way, come to Cato's, where we have a ton of new rental equipment available for daily, weekly, and monthly rentals. Cato's Power Equipment is here to bring you solutions to keep your yard or your customer's yard looking their best. Give us a call at 803-254-3711.
Get ready to smile because Herndon Chevrolet, your hometown Chevy dealer, is offering an amazing deal. Right now, get a whopping $20,000 off new Silverados. Yes, 20 grand off. Don't wait. Head over to HerndonChevy.com today and drive home in the truck of your dreams. Chevy, together let's drive.
Herndon Chevrolet, Herndon makes you wanna smile.
Call 803-510-5447 for complete details.
It's that time of year to be active. Time to do something about that pain in your joints. Hey, it's Preston Thorne. Stop with the steroids. Stop with the talk of surgery. Now there's a better way to get lasting relief. It's QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. Here in Columbia, they have 2 clinics in West Columbia and downtown. QC Kinetics' exciting approach uses healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, and puts them directly into your achy joints. It can restore and repair that damaged tissue and get you moving again without pain. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain. The patient satisfaction reports are incredible, and there's no downtime. Listen, the old ways of dealing with joint pain are no longer the only ways. If they're telling you that you need surgery, do yourself a favor and call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Learn more about this wildly popular, all-natural way to get lasting pain relief with no surgery and no drugs. The call is free. The consultation is free. Call QC Kinetics now, 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on the Game Network.
Even better than I was last time, baby. Ooh, ooh.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday. Again, Jay Phelps will check in with us in about 10 minutes out there at SEC Media Days for day number 2. Want to continue on with what Beamer had to say. Speaking of local media yesterday, is they have a little scrum with the local medias out there before he goes and takes the podium. We're going to get a little bit more detailed answers than the ones that you might get from when he's talking to more of the national media.
The gaggle.
The gaggle. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. One thing that he talked about, and we've hit on this a few times this morning already, is the awareness of where people are going to view this team. And in Beamer's words, you know, he expects them to be picked very low at the end of the week.
Maybe. I mean, you guys probably know better than I do. We're going to be picked low. Whenever you guys do your preseason projections, we'll be picked, 13th, 14th, 15th, or 16th, I'm sure, at the end of the week, which is fine. I get it. We lost a high draft pick in Spencer Rattler, quarterback. We lost Xavier Legette, a first-round draft pick. It's easy to look and say, well, they struggled last year in some ways, but and they lost their quarterback and their best receiver. So they're not going to be very good. I think that's a very lazy way of thinking, in my opinion. No one talks about the players that we do return and the experience that we have, but it is what it is. I mean, we worry about what we can control. I'm not going to go into the first team meeting this year and put up y'all's projections for the team, and they think we're going to be 13th. We know what kind of team we have. I came here in 2021, Jordan, and there was a national columnist that said the ceiling of this team in 2021 was 2 wins, and we, tripled that. And I just know we've got some great young men on this team that are extremely hungry. I get it. We play in the toughest conference in America. It's extremely competitive. We get to play that schedule, but everybody in the SEC plays, a tough schedule. But I know what kind of young men we have on this team and how hungry they are to be really, really successful. And realize, I think the biggest thing is just our guys realize we're not that far off. That video came out over the weekend, and it's true. I mean, you look back at some of the games last year that could have gone either way, and it's a play here, play there, but that's college football. I mean, it's not just us. Anybody in America can say that, but key for us is just going to be understanding why those plays did not go our way last season and make sure they do, go in our favor this year.
And it's an interesting way to look at it because, I think a lot of people might say, oh, I can't believe they're disrespecting. I can't believe they think we're one of the worst teams in the SEC or whatever it may be. They're kind of taking the approach, and this was echoed by, Debo and Boogie as well. I think Luke Doty may have mentioned it too. Like, no, we know that they're not going to look upon us very favorably. We think we're better, and we think we're going to go out there and prove it. Like it's not this us against the world mindset necessarily. It's more like, no, you'll see in due time.
Well, and I think, guys, you also have to remember, and I know everybody does, but when in this league, when you look at the teams that are in here, you can be a top 25 team and be decidedly middle of the pack in the SEC. So, so somebody has to get, and I don't think South Carolina will be picked last. They won't, but somebody in the league has to get picked last. Somebody has to get picked 15th, 14th, 3rd, and so on. So, Vandy's getting picked last, right? Like, that's going to be the default. That's always the default.
They are.
And poor Vandy, now they go from having to be picked with the word or the number 14 beside them, and now you're going to have the number 16 beside you because the league keeps getting bigger, but they aren't picking Oklahoma or Texas last, so that's just two more teams that could potentially be picked ahead of you. If you're South Carolina, you don't have the blue blood history to fall back on. And people still remember 5-7. And like Beamer said, you lose your quarterback, you lose your top receiver. So why else would the media pick you highly? Like, they're just not. So, I think you accept it. I think you use it as motivation. And you just know if you finish in the top half of this league, you've done something, and you're one of the top 25 teams in the country, in my opinion. Like that's just the way it's going to be, and it's not quite to the level maybe like what we're seeing from an SEC softball or SEC baseball, but the more these conferences pack in the best like blue blood teams all within the same conference, the more we're going to have to change our perception of what it means to be the 8th best team in a league, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you got the playoff expanding a little bit. Now, again, that's different than, say March Madness, where you got 64 teams in, or even Omaha. Like, that's a great example. SEC baseball, you look at the season South Carolina had, right? Like, that South Carolina baseball team, didn't have a great season in conference, but they didn't have a great season in conference the year before and made a super. It's so close. We've seen Ole Miss in the SEC baseball have a poor season and go win the national title. It's a little different in football. Your kind of middle of the pack SEC team is not going to be a team that you identify and say, okay, they're going to make the playoff and go win it. They're not. But to your point, Wes, they can still be quite good. And you're in top 25, but you're not actually competing for a title. Now, of course, that's everybody's goal. If you're a college football fan, you want your football team to be able to compete for a title, but it's a climb. It's a more difficult one now, especially with the two teams that are coming in. For some perspective, I told Tyler this last hour, Wes. I was looking at ESPN's, FPI rankings for 2024, and their top 4, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and Oklahoma, Tennessee at number 5. Ole Miss, which has playoff buzz, and it would not be surprising whatsoever if they make the college football playoff this year, they're number 9 in that. I think they'll be higher in the media poll, and I would have them higher. But, according to that, they're number 9. South Carolina is number 12 in that. So, I do think it is fair, and you made a point that Tyler and I were talking about last hour, Wes, and that you can look at this, and I think you can say, hey, well, I think South Carolina will outplay, 12, 13, 14, wherever they end up being. But you can also recognize that, when media members are looking at these things, they're not taking deep dives into all 16 SEC teams. They're generally looking at what did they do last season, what's coming back. And they look at it and say they lose Spencer Rattler, they lose Xavier Legette. And having They got Demetrius Knight and Bengali Kamara and all these guys. Like that's not on their radar as much. If transfers are on your radar, it's they came from some big school, right? They kind of take a bigger picture overview. So very fair, and it just goes back to the point of South Carolina's going to have to prove it this year.
Well, and I think even if you are taking a deep dive into this South Carolina program, you're probably saying, like, what have we talked about here? Like, the tremendous upside of Lenora Sellers, but until we see it, in a starter situation, we don't know how close he has started to become to that upside. The O-line, we think it's going to be improved. How improved is it against SEC competition? That will be an unknown until we see it. I do think, and here's a point Phil still made, like there's some upside to this team for South Carolina if all these questions or many of these questions we have start getting answered favorably. Phil still has, now he went the tie route. He tied a lot of teams. He has South Carolina and Kentucky and Auburn all tied for 11th in the SEC. But, of course, that means really you could have been the 11th team, the 12th team, or the 13th team. And even from a perception standpoint, 11 feels different to me than 13 in a 16-team conference. So I'll be curious to see where I think Carolina will – I doubt they'll be 11th from SEC media. I think it's probably going to be more – they'll be ahead of Vandy, they'll be ahead of Arkansas. Will they be ahead of Mississippi State with a brand-new coach?
I'd say probably. Chris and I talked about this last hour. Anywhere between 11th and 13th, maybe a little more towards the 13th is probably a realistic area for this team.
Yeah, still has Vandy and Mississippi State tied for last.
Yeah.
With Arkansas a notch above, and then Auburn, South Carolina, Kentucky all tied at 11.
I think there's probably 3 teams that are going to be like a big, like I do think it's going to be Arkansas, Mississippi State, Vandy at the bottom, probably in that order. And then your kind of 3 swing teams spots are probably Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky.
What about Auburn?
You might throw Auburn in there, but I have a feeling that Auburn's going to be higher than all those.
Auburn will,
That's just the sense
Auburn will
I get.
definitely be over South Carolina just because the name alone.
Right.
They're Auburn.
That's well, I think that's a fair point. And maybe Florida, too, because they're Florida.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check in with Jay Phillips from Dallas up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
From the Midlands to the PD to the beach. The Game Network.
This summer, Hardee's and the Game are teaming up for a back-to-school supply drive that's all about giving back. Help us by dropping off essential supplies like pens, pencils, folders, and calculators at Hardee's locations like 496 Piney Grove Road in Columbia. We will be on site July 13th, 20th, and 27th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for drop-off. Let's make sure every student and teacher starts the school year off right. Together, we can make a difference in Richland 1 and Richland 2 school districts. Anyone who donates school supplies will receive 1 free 3-piece chicken tenders coupon from Hardee's. Limit 1 coupon per donating customer while supplies last. Hardee's and the Game, partnering to support our community.
All right, I don't know if they have Firehouse in Dallas where SEC Media Days is, but I know we got firehouses all over the Midlands. Our guy Larry Chandler, he's got you hooked up. No matter where you are in the Midlands, there's a Firehouse Subs close to you. It's 11:30, which means it's almost lunchtime, or it may be lunchtime for you. FirehouseSubs.com or Firehouse Subs app, by far the easiest, most efficient way to hit that rapid rescue to go, avoid the wait, and order online. They're going to have it waiting for you on the shelf with the chips in the bag. Download the Firehouse Subs app. Now, I know most of you, I'm hoping we got you trained up. You've already downloaded the app. You got it sitting there waiting on your home screen. Hit that button every single time you order. You're going to get points, and then you can turn around, trade those points in for free food. And, of course, we all love free food. Try my favorite brisket, add bacon, or try whatever it is you like because they got options for everybody. FirehouseSubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet, South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer. Don't let the summer of savings pass you by. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Do you remember your first Gamecock game? Who you were with and where did you sit? Where did you tailgate? What were you wearing? The idea that all those memories can come flooding back the moment you set foot on campus is real.
So this year and every year, come to campus and catch a game. Whatever the game, whoever you're with, just catch a game. Get your tickets today and catch a game at any time for any sport. Online at GamecocksOnline.com.
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. The Game TV. Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass.
I chose public health nursing because of the flexibility it provides me that private nursing could not. This benefit is priceless to young nurses beginning their careers and starting families just like I did. In public health nursing, you can make a difference in your community and still have time for your family and your friends. Make public health your passion.
For more information, visit dph.sc.gov/careers.
Zerust Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning's hottest summer sale is going on now. 15% off all cleaning services. Mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and you'll get 15% off your next service. Use promo code SUMMERSALE when scheduling online at ZerustColumbia.com.
What's up, Gamecocks? Summer is officially here, and those famously hot temps, they aren't going anywhere soon. Super hot days can be incredibly stressful on your lawn, and even more stressful on the person maintaining it. So don't spend hours pushing around an old lawnmower or going 2 miles an hour on a bumpy old rider. Come to Cato's Power Equipment. Whether you have just a few weeds or tons of acres of grass to keep cut, our huge selection of Toro, Bravely, and Aaron zero turns will make short work of your yard. Guaranteed. Spend more time where it matters this summer. And like Cato's Power Equipment, help make your yard an oasis, not a chore.
All right, guys, our friends over at Goal Line Framing, Kendall and Joni, huge Gamecock fans. So if you're a Gamecock who wants to support other Gamecocks, hit them up over at Goal Line Framing, and they want to send a huge welcome home to the 4 new head coaches here in Columbia. And for a limited time only, any customers will receive 25% off framing or purchase of any sports-related prints or items at Gold Line Framing. All you got to do is mention that you heard about the deal here on the game. Again, that's 25% off framing or purchase of any sports-related items there in the store. Phone number 803-739-1337. Of course, you can just type Gold Line Framing into your Maps app on your phone or head on over to 511 12th Street. That's in West Columbia. In store, there's an art gallery, home decor, furniture, and gift items. Again, if you got questions or you want to set up a framing job, 803-739-1337.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet on the Game Network.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, and Chris Clark back here in Columbia. Time for our daily check-in with Jay Phillips on Radio Row out there at SEC Media Days in Dallas. And Jay, I will let you know that Wes and Chris were not thrilled to know that we had you for the second day in a row. They were hoping for maybe Elijah.
That is
so
not right.
We're off to a rough
I was just
start.
wondering if Elijah was actually working or just Jay. Is Elijah working or he's making you do everything, Jay?
No, actually, Elijah is working his tail off. So I will give him full credit. And he is not here for me, for him to hear me say that. No, he is gathering plenty of content. I'm just sitting here, drinking coffee.
Jay is doing what Wes and I do here in Columbia, where Tyler does all the work, and then we come in
and just respond to whatever
we just jabber. Yes,
Jay,
that's exactly it.
How many Dr. Peppers have you down so far this week? By the way,
only one. Only one Dr. Pepper. Believe it or not, only one Dr. Pepper. Had a couple of bottles of water, and today I am probably going to try the coconut Dr. Pepper just to see what's up with that, and I hope I hate to waste it if it's not good. So, but all the Dr. Pepper you can drink is not an exaggeration at this event.
It's Forrest Gump's dream come true.
It is, man. I mean, and they got Diet Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper Zero, cherry, strawberry, coconut. There's I don't know what else, man. They got all kinds. I mean, whatever you want, Dr. Pepper wise, they got it.
Well, there's your Dr. Pepper breakdown.
So that's my visit for today, boys. I got nothing else
for the day. But Jay, going back to everything that we heard yesterday from Coach Beamer, from Debo, from Boogie, and from Luke Doty, again, they're talking about a lot of things that we talk about every single day here. Is there anything in particular that stuck out to you from yesterday, though?
from the Carolina guys, no, I don't know. Like I said, I thought maybe the funniest thing, and I think I told you guys this yesterday, and if I did, I apologize, and if I didn't, but it's just, Shane talking about Rocket Sanders. I know he thought the rocket science line was a good one. It was got a chuckle, but it just reminding people how good he was, and we kind of joked later on my show, like, man, maybe Shane needs to not remind people of how good Rocket Sanders was. But honestly, Tyler, no. And I know that's probably not the greatest answer to give. But like you said, we know this stuff. It's really more how do I portray this? I think how people are looking at Carolina, and Shane addressed some of that too, but having some on and off air conversations with different folks around here, they're asking me, like, what do you think? And I told him, look, last season, Shane's not exaggerating. They were close in a couple of games, but and Wes, Chris, you guys know this better than I. They didn't have enough talent all the time in certain spots. Or if I say enough talent, they got bodies, but is it ready to play at a consistently high level all the time the way you have to in this league? Because let's face it, y'all, Florida wasn't very good last year. But Carolina didn't win that football game because Carolina wasn't very good last year. That's just the nature of the beast. So I think how Carolina is being portrayed, and I won't name names here, but David Cloninger just came by and said there was another pretty prominent reporter, not from around our area, that just assumed yesterday that Luke Doty was Carolina's quarterback. And the point I make for that is not he's wrong. It's that they're kind of just not paying attention. Take that as you will, but maybe that's what kind of stands out is South Carolina right now is kind of an afterthought. And again, I'll say the same phrase, take that as you will. Carolina fans don't want to hear that, but at the same time, flying under the radar might not be the worst thing for the Gamecocks this fall.
Well, and Jay, I think especially if you're not one of those blue blood type programs where you're just always in the national conversation, people are kind of going to judge you going into this year just based on what they remember from last year. And then, like Beamer said, add to that, you lose Rattler, and you lose your top wide receiver who is a first-round pick. So I get it. And the bigger the conference gets, the harder it's going to be for your, quote, SEC media to follow everybody and to follow all the little details of what's going on with everybody. But we've been talking a lot about what the predicted finish might be. I know Beamer said he doesn't expect South Carolina to be picked very high. That's probably accurate. When you've talked to others there, have you gotten more of a vibe on where you would expect South? I mean, I assume they'll be ahead of Vandy, maybe ahead of Mississippi State, ahead of Arkansas. We've been saying like maybe 11 to 13.
That's probably it, Wes.
Yeah,
that's probably it. Those three you mentioned, I would think Carolina is ahead of them, and that's it. That's my prediction for the league. Florida is an interesting kind of wild card. Auburn is an interesting kind of wild card there with Carolina. So but I would think, and you just kind of touched on it there indirectly, based on the names. If you're just kind of taking a crapshoot sort of with Carolina, Auburn, Florida, Arkansas, Florida and Auburn probably emerge ahead of the other two just because of their names. So I think Carolina is, probably going to be, if they're higher than 12th overall, I will be surprised. Not necessarily disappointed or anything. That's not our job, right? I mean, you got to go play football games regardless. But that sounds, if they're higher than 12th, I'll be surprised this season. And the reason you said is accurate. What'd you do last year? That's how much of this, not all of it, but much of this is based.
Yeah, and Jay, I would throw in maybe one other team we were talking about a minute ago. What do you think about Kentucky being in that kind of mix of schools?
Well, it could be. I think they have a little bit of a benefit, Chris, just because they have been better over all the last few years. I know last year was not what they wanted, and Carolina's now beaten them 2 years in a row, which I think is crucial. I know you guys do too. South Carolina's got to start beating Missouri, and they've gotten a lot better of late. Eli just seems to have their number. and I know we'll all talk about this over the next month. Elijah and I have already been talking about it on the afternoon show for a couple of weeks. I'm not telling you that conference opener in Lexington is the biggest week 2 game that I've ever covered in
the
my
history
career.
of football. It actually is.
Yeah, but I know, right? But there are times when you want the hyperbole to kind of go there. I mean, I can think back to some Georgia games that were huge, especially that second game of the season in 2000, and we all know what that meant to the program. But for both of these schools, the loser of that Carolina-Kentucky game, Chris, to your point, feels really, really nervous about what they have in front of them. That is such. I know it's only one win in the standings, but it may be a win that feels a little bigger for that one. But yeah, Kentucky could be in that mix. But I might also say that Kentucky gets a slight benefit of the doubt ahead of Carolina or Arkansas at this point.
All right, Jay, we'll let you get back to it. Try not to drink too many Dr. Peppers, and you guys haven't been arrested as of yet, but the week is still young, I guess.
Yeah, they're taking us someplace tonight. I think we're going out. I'm not sure yet, but I guess we'll be protected by some type of conference staffer. So we should be okay.
Jay, real quick, how has it been having it in Dallas? I know you've done some of the other cities for SEC Media Days. I'm just used to it being in Alabama, but I know they've started moving it around the last 4 years, I think, maybe. But
yeah, this is the 4th site in 4 years. Yes, I honestly, man, this is a fantastic venue. Obviously, we're 1,000 miles from Columbia, but at least the airplane goes quick. But no, this venue has been fantastic for this, and quite honestly, in my opinion, and I don't want to make y'all bump up against your break. I think this event has outgrown the Winfrey. I'm not saying it's outgrown Birmingham, Alabama, but in fact, Cloninger and I were talking about that earlier, maybe putting this in downtown Birmingham with a hotel convention center kind of setup would be a lot better. But as I sit here on Radio Row, y'all might remember that Radio Row setup in Birmingham, that kind of walkway between the hotel lobby and the mall, and it just got so congested. So it was so hard to fit radios. They were putting radio stations out in that like mall atrium, and it was just it's too small. I mean, this has become, and now with even more schools, and you add the media markets of Texas, plus an Oklahoma City aspect, and the Winfrey just can't handle it. But Wes, this venue is perfect. So I loved it in Nashville last year because, again, that venue was big. I liked what they did at the College Football Hall of Fame. That wasn't quite ideal for some because there was sort of a split venue thing. But out here has been great. This hotel's taking really good care of us, and this is Dallas, man. I mean, the whole bigger in Texas thing is true.
All right, we'll let you get back to it, and we'll check back in with you tomorrow. Appreciate it, Jay.
All right, boys.
Thanks, Jay. Have a good one, man.
Phillips from Radio Row out there in Dallas. We'll come back, wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. Powered by Integrated Media. The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. A true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
This is Maggie Gray with a Sports Minute. If there's even a hint of truth to the rumor that the New York Jets are trying to acquire wide receiver Davante Adams, the team has to make this happen, even if it takes trading a first-round pick. The Jets are the definition of an all-in team on the brink of a Super Bowl or bust season. There's no doubt Adams would help them get to the big game. I'm Maggie Gray.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get a $10 O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card after rebate when you buy 5 quarts of Mobil 1 Full Synthetic Motor Oil in-store or online.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, guys, let me continue to tell you about my friends over at Classic Roofing. Best way to get more information about them is classicroofingsc.com, or call them right now. Tell them you've been listening to the radio and you want to talk some sports, or that you want them to come out and check out your roof. 803-590-7870. If you go to that website, again, it's classicroofingsc.com. You're going to see some videos from their drone of some of the other work they've done. You might even see my house on there because they've been out at my house, did a fantastic job with a full roof replacement. You may not need that, though. You may not need anything close to that, but what you might want is some peace of mind to know exactly how long your roof has, and maybe if there are some things you can do to your roof now to extend the life of that roof. Get that peace of mind. Get a free estimate. Call them today, 803-590-7870, or again, go to that website and hit free estimate link.
Looking for reliable storage and delivery services in the Midlands area? Look no further than Sosa Delivery and Movers, LLC. Whether you need to move your belongings locally within the city or require storage solutions, the professional team led by Sammy Davis is there to assist you every step of the way. From houses to apartments, high-rises, condos, and office buildings, Sosa Delivery and Movers can handle all types of local moving with precision and care. Call 803-553-1237 for all your moving and storage needs in the Midlands, Orangeburg, Sumter, and Charleston areas.
Do you have sagging, soft, or bouncy floors in your home? Well, this could be a sign of rotten wood caused by moisture in your crawl space. Damaged wood in your crawl space can affect your home's foundation, and that can affect your home's value, and nobody wants that. Say goodbye to sagging floors and hello to a stable foundation. Contact Canty today for your free inspection at 803-424-8380 or visit cantycanfixit.com.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on the Game Network.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Here on the game, Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you for a few more minutes here before we throw it back out to Terry, Jay, and Elijah out there at Media Days. Wes posed the question a little bit earlier on in the hour of how you taking Media Days now that South Carolina's already gotten their stuff out of the way on day number one. Monty says he's not really watching past this point. Nameless Texter says, I'm done with it. Beamer spoke, and now I'm going to spend the remainder of Media Days playing the new college football game. And then another Nameless Texter says, of course, you want to hear what your opponents have to say. Rule number one is know your opponent in competition. So maybe it leans a little bit more towards checking out, but there are some people that are still tuned in to what's going on, it seems like.
Yeah, that's about right. But I feel like you got to be a pretty hardcore fan to sit there and take notes on what all 15 other coaches say, if you're not doing it for a job, you know what I mean? Like,
I won't even do that for our job.
No, I don't really. and it actually probably is good information.
Yeah,
I haven't followed these teams all off season.
There's a lot of good information. When you get past the thank you, Commissioner Sankey, for what you've done, and our team GPA was this, and things like that. There's definitely some insights into the teams that you can get, particularly the ones that you don't cover on a daily basis. Like, if you're from Oklahoma or Texas or wherever if you're a national reporter and didn't know that Lenore Sellers is likely to be the starting quarterback for South Carolina, that's helpful info that maybe you picked up during Media Days.
Now, Luke Doty was a quarterback, so they're not way far off. He's just not the starting quarterback.
Yeah, they have not been paying attention very much, though. But I get it. If you were like, hey, Wes, pick a random SEC team that has a quarterback battle, and you're like, who's the favorite? I don't know if I could tell you either. So I get it. The bigger the conference gets to. And to Jay's point, I mean, I go back to my college game day index. You want to be in the national conversation, right? Mm-hmm. And this goes along with that. Teams are going to pick you just based on a perception. They aren't going through the roster, and if they are, they don't know who some of these players are. Like Chris said, They may know who Rocket Sanders is, but do they know who Gage Larvardin is? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
Do they know that Demetrius Knight is probably going to go up NFL draft boards if he has the season that they expect him to over there in the ops building? Do they know that Bam Martin-Scott came on and looked like an all-SEC type linebacker the last few games of last season? Of course not. So, I think you look at a team from the outside and you say, oh, they lost Spencer Rattler. They lost Xavier Legette. Even if you're diving deeper in, you'll say, well, they lost Marcellus Dial too, who was the best corner. And so I think I get it. I get it. You're even saying they lost Juice Wells to the portal. If you're an outsider, but you're kind of trying to dive into it and do your due diligence, that would be the headlines, though, from this offseason. So I think, go back to when Juice Wells first transferred to South Carolina. There were a few people, to give credit where it's due, that really paid attention to the portal from a media standpoint that were outside of South Carolina. There were a few people that did have Juice on, it was top 10 FCS transfers to the SEC level or whatever. But for the most part, these guys who typically have been pretty good that are moving up a level are just not as well known. The further out you branch from a program, the lesser known these guys are going to be, I think.
Yeah, again, when you're, and look, this is no slight. Anybody who listens knows that you and I, Wes, have talked extensively about how important we think getting Demetrius Knight and Gali Kamara at linebacker in the portal, those two guys are going to play a lot, and they're going to help add to the depth. And like you said, Knight's a probable NFL guy, and, Kamara might be as well. But people aren't looking around going, oh, man, they got this Charlotte transfer linebacker and this Pitt transfer linebacker, and that's really going to help propel South Carolina. I'd venture to say that a lot of people don't, from a national standpoint, probably don't know who Bam Scott is.
Yeah.
Because he really flashed at the end of last season. So, when you take a team that is not that far away, South Carolina is not where, I hate to keep bagging on them, but they're not where Vandy is, where they got kind of cleaned out in the portal. They weren't that good.
The Commodores.
I am. They were not that good anyway. South Carolina is in a different situation. That's not to say they're going to leap up to the top of the conference.
Sure.
But they're not that far away from being a factor to where they're in that, they're outplaying 12 through 14 in the conference.
And you're going to have ample opportunities against great teams, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma. That's the month of October alone to make people aware of who you are as a team, and also some of these guys individually, if they can have strong performances against some of those high-level teams, have the opportunity to garner a lot more attention than what they're getting, at this point in the summer.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, before we get out of here, y'all, how about former Gamecock Scott Wingo last night? Home run derby?
Yep.
Did y'all watch?
I did.
Hey, he was delivering some strikes. Good job, Scott Wingo.
Absolutely. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Coming up next, back out to SEC Media Days on Radio Row. Terry, Jay, and Elijah with you for the next couple hours here on your Tuesday on the game.
.1075 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
All right, before we send it back out to Media Days, let me tell you about my friend Kendall Walsh with Dwell Columbia, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Medley over there at 1926 Augusta Road, West Columbia. Give her a call today, 803-123-4567. There's no way that's the right number. Let me give you her cell phone number. Kendall, she was my realtor, and she wants to be yours as well. She took outstanding care of me and my wife. She took outstanding care of my mother-in-law as well. And if you want somebody who's been through everything that has to do with buying or selling a home, Kendall is your person. 803-414-3590, or head on over to dwellcolumbia.com for more information. Buying or selling a home can honestly be one of the most difficult things you ever do in your life, but Kendall made it easy, simple, and efficient for us. She can do the same for you. 803-414-3590.
It's the Love Chevrolet Countdown to Gamecock Football.
46 days till kickoff.
Your trusted family-owned dealership since 1961. Get the vehicle you want, not the one you have to settle for. Love Chevy, South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together,